Hi everyone, it's Danny. So today we're going to be answering a question sent by Orchid Lover, and they're saying they purchased a phalaenopsis which was not fragrant, but after a few blooms it became fragrant, and how normal this is. Now, I thought I could make a small discussion about orchid fragrances and what sets them off and when they actually smell the most, because I've noticed they're quite different. Most orchids usually smell during daytime, and this is because they want to attract pollinators. That's actually the main role of the fragrance, besides being beautiful. But there are a few orchids that smell during nighttime, and these usually are the white orchid species like brassavolas and angrecums. They release fragrance at night because they're pollinated by some moths that only go out at night. They have activity during nighttime. But most of the other orchids do smell during daytime, and I've noticed with most of them they start to smell from the beginning of the day, from the morning, and usually they start to fade away at about noon. Miltoniopsis orchids and their hybrids tend to release their fragrance early in the morning, and by noon it kind of completely fades away. While phalaenopsis orchids tend to prefer noontime or afternoon to release the most powerful fragrance. So each orchid has its specific time during the daytime when it's most fragrant. So the moment of the day greatly affects the orchid's fragrance. Also, with most orchids, the amount of light actually influences the releasing of fragrance. When a bit of sun hits the flower, it tends to intensify. Of course, this is not valid for orchids that release scent during nighttime, but for most of the orchids that release scent during daytime, a bit of sun and very bright light will intensify the actual smell. There are those orchids who do not release any fragrance if there's no sun hitting the actual plant. So it really depends on the type of orchid, but sunlight again greatly affects the amount of scent they release. Temperature seems to have a bit of an impact as well. The warmer it is, the more fragrant a flower can be. This is again related to the amount of sunlight they receive, but also in very low temperatures they seem to smell less. This of course does not apply to Miltoniopsis orchids, which actually prefer cooler temperatures and are as fragrant in colder temperatures as in warm temperatures. Now, like my viewer said, there are some cases in which you can buy a fragrant orchid and the next time it blooms in your house it could not be fragrant, or it can be the other way around. I think it all depends on the amount of proper care the orchid receives. Fertilizer, good watering, good light, good growth actually influence everything, including fragrance and flower appearance, obviously. So if you want to have a very fragrant orchid, you need to meet its requirements as best as you can. It doesn't really mean the orchid will not be fragrant, but the better the orchid is, the healthier it is, the more it will be fragrant. If an orchid is dehydrated, most probably it will not release the same amount of fragrance, I've noticed. If your orchid is not particularly fragrant and you notice it's dry, give it a good soak, a good water, and within an hour or so I think it will start to release more scent than before. So keeping your orchids hydrated is very important if you want to have the full potential of their scent. Also, it seems that changing the environment of an orchid influences the fragrance as well. So don't be alarmed if you buy a fragrant orchid and when you bring it into your home it will not smell for a day or two or maybe even 3. Just give it some time to adjust to your environment and eventually it will start to release the fragrance. Now in some cases the flowers with which she already came will drop or will not release any fragrance, but the new flowers should start to produce fragrances. So changes in environment kind of affect the fragrance as well. And of course, each individual orchid has its own scent depending on its genetics. So if you're dealing with a hybrid which doesn't seem to be that scented, it might be that it's something wrong in its genetics. Maybe it's not a quality hybrid. You never know. So if you want to purchase really fragrant orchids, hybrids, try to find a reputable source. And yeah, you're gonna have more chances to have a very fragrant orchid than if you go and buy it from the grocery shop. So okay, thank you for sending in the question. Hope I gave you some tips. Hope I answered your question. And if you have other questions, just leave them in a comment and I'll try to make a video for you guys, or I will answer in a comment. So if you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!